Everyone thought that he was a loser who could not use magic, but he turns out to be the wizard with infinite magic. Sable was a homeless loser with no memories of his past, but his life changed when a mysterious woman approached him one day. She looked at his glossy and mysterious eyes that were proof of him having magic and told him that she would take him to a place where he belongs. She took him to the Royal Magic Academy, a place where students study magic to become wizards and witches. It has been 3 years since his admission here, and Seb is the dumbest student in the history of the academy who can't manage to cast a single spell decently. He receives a summons from the headmaster, and as he reaches her office, he finds a blonde lowly witch there. The lowly throws a tantrum because she's not being let into the office, but as she notices Seb, she transforms her staff into an axe and points it at his neck. She tells him to scream because then the headmaster will surely come there to save him. Suddenly, the headmaster's servant, who is a beastman named Hold'em, comes there and confronts the lowly. Hold'em disarms the witch and sends her staff flying, which reverts to its original shape once it hits the ground. Seb decides to pick it up for her. Both the lowly and the wolf panic on seeing that. Hold'em pushes him away and then kicks the staff towards the lowly, who cries on seeing her trusted partner being mistreated like this. Suddenly, the door behind them opens and Headmaster Albus comes out to see the cause of the commotion. She is shocked to see the lowly witch, whom she identifies as Luv Christus, and asks how the hell he came here. Albus lets everyone in and tells Seb that he is being sent off to a faraway place for special training because she believes that he will not improve in the academy. Albus starts the story of the long and bloody war between the witches and the church that ended only 5 years ago. After the war, the northern part, including the kingdom they live in, accepted magic and witches. The south, on the other hand, is still hostile to them, and news of witch hunting is routine there. The reason why the north has accepted magic is because of a smaller and more intense war that took place 10 years ago. A very powerful man called Evil Wizard 13 spread the teaching of magic in Wynya's kingdom and led the war to create a world where witches and wizards are not prosecuted. Albus did not agree with his methods and she killed him in the end. However, she believes that the current acceptance of magic in the north is thanks to the Wizard 13, who made magic more commonplace. On the other hand, things are tough for witches in the south, so she has decided to build a witch village there. She wants Seb and some other students to prove to everyone that they are not dangerous and can live like ordinary people. If they fail to impress the local authorities in 3 years, everyone there will lose their memories of magic and the academy. Lou admits that Albus has made a nice plan and she volunteers to be the witch in charge of the village. Albus tries to say that they have another teacher for the job, but Lou says that she will not cooperate with her and the academy in the future if she is not allowed to go to the village. Albus is already frustrated, and then Lou says that she will work for her only if she allows her to read the Grimoire of Zero, the first ever magic book written in the world. Albus replies that it is a forbidden book that contains the power to destroy the world, and Lou cannot have permission to read it. However, they reach middle ground as Albus permits Lou to meet the Mud Black Witch, the author of the Grimoire of Zero, and the lowly happily accepts the deal. The next day, Seb meets Lou in the marketplace as they get ready to leave for the south. Along with them is Hort, a cheerful redhead with a very big personality, and a lizard beastman named Kudo, who insists that he doesn't need anyone to guide and escort him. He tells Lou he will be traveling to the south independently, along with 2 other students. Seb and the girls sit at a restaurant, and Lou feeds her staff some juicy meat skewers. She introduces it as the Staff of Ludens, also known as the Witch Ear, because it sucks the magic power of whoever touches it and kills them. Lou can only hold it because she has signed a pact with the staff. They start their journey after that, and Seb gets motion sickness as soon as they get on a wagon, so Lou decides to continue the rest of their journey on foot. At night, they talk about their past, and Seb states that he had no memories before he enrolled in the school. That is why he wants to pass the test in the special village, because if his memories of the academy are erased, he would be just an empty shell. Just then, Lou arrives there carrying water and her staff. While they talk more about themselves, the girls learn that Seb can barely use any magic. When he tries to use a spell, his magic goes out of control, but when he tries to control it, the magic doesn't manifest. Lou thinks that Seb should really give up on being a wizard because it will take him too long to do anything worthwhile. The next day, they reach a village and get a room at an inn. While they are having breakfast, the 2 wizards that were with Kudo come downstairs complaining about the lizard deserting them and running away. As soon as they see Seb's group, they inform them that bandits attacked them last night. Their belongings were not stolen, but Kudo took the map with him, declared that he was the only wizard in the group, and ran away. Lou finds this story fishy because any normal bandit would steal their belongings and kidnap the boys to sell them as slaves. However, since Kudo was targeted specifically, she believes that it is the work of a witch hunter. She believes that Kudo must have realized this too, and that is why he ran away alone to let his friends escape to safety. Lu takes responsibility for letting Kudo go away on his own and decides to save him on her own. She forbids Seb and Hort from joining her, as they would only be hindrances in her path. However, once they are alone in their room, they realize that they cannot sit idle while their classmate is in trouble. Hort suddenly gets an idea and uses divination magic using Lu's handkerchief and pinpoints her exact location on a map. They head out to the forest, but Hort is still angry at the two useless wizards who refuse to come with them to help Kudo, saying that it isn't their fault if a lowly lizard dies. Suddenly, they spot the severed tail belonging to Kudo with blood lying all around it. They panic on seeing it, and Hort wonders if the severed tail means that Kudo is dead, but Seb believes that being a lizard, he can regrow it. Hort picks it up just in case, and then Seb notices 3 sets of footprints on the ground. 2 of them belong to Kudo and Lu, which means that the third belongs to the attacker. Hort freaks out as she realizes that there is a single witch hunter who is strong enough to corner Kudo and make him run for his life. She trembles as she recalls what she has learned about the professional witch hunters who were recruited by the church from death row criminals. She cannot control her fear when she takes the name of the Dia Ignis, the organization of the vicious witch hunters. Seb says that the Dia Ignis was disbanded after the war, but Hort yells at him that even if the organization is no longer there, it doesn't mean that the hunters have retired. She nervously says that she once met a member of the Dia Ignis in the past. She went to a nearby village to meet her friend, but all she found there was a heap of burning bodies and a ferocious man with a gigantic hammer standing in front of them. She was so terrified of the witch hunter that she ran away crying even though her friend was burning in the pyre. She wants to run away this time too, when suddenly they hear a scream in the distance and realize that it is Kudo. Seb thinks that it would be smarter to run away, but then he decides to go and help out their friend. He tells Hort that this is her chance to gather courage and not make the mistake of her past, and she decides to follow him. On the other hand, Kudo was hiding in the trees while the hunters were trying to find him and setting up traps everywhere. He noticed a rope tied around the branch he was resting on. The branch suddenly snapped, and as he fell to the ground, hidden traps fired arrows at him. He dodged them somehow, only to get injured by the spikes on the ground. Now he tries to escape from the jungle despite his injuries, but trips on a simple trap. He fears arrows will come raining down on him again, but instead of that, he comes face to face with a terrifying witch hunter named Tyron, who he ran away from last night. Last night, Kudo's magic attacks didn't work on him, so this time he tries to blind him using a light spell and runs away. However, Tyron easily recovers from the magic and chases him down within a moment. He hits Kudo with his giant hammer and slams him into a tree. Tyron then notices that the wound on Kudo's feet is already closing, and he laughs, saying that he will fetch a high price if he sells him to some researchers from the church. He orders his men to bring a cage, and that brings back Kudo's PTSD. When he was a little lizard, he was enslaved by some nasty circus freaks who made a show out of his superb regenerative abilities. He escaped that horrific place and came to the academy to grow stronger, but it seems all was in vain. He desperately clings to a tree root, and Tyron mercilessly crushes his hands. Kudo screams in pain, but he is still not willing to give up and grabs the root with his jaw. Tyron is about to end his life for good when suddenly, the tree next to him is sliced in half. The hunter looks around and finds Lu sitting on a treetop. She commands her staff to attack the man, and it takes the form of a black jaw. Tyron smashes away with his hammer and then starts sweating as he asks if that is the legendary staff of Ludens. Lu affirms and declares that she is the 300-year-old Dawn Witch, and right now, she is also the teacher of the lizard he tried to harm. Tyron is flustered and attacks the tree she is standing on, but doesn't do much. Lu attacks him using her staff and displays her power by cutting several trees in an instant. Tyron realizes he is doomed when suddenly the voices of Seb and Hort are heard in the distance. Lu tells them to run away, but it is too late, and Tyron is already upon them. Seb pushes Hort to safety and gets knocked down instead. As Tyron strangles him, Hort recognizes him as the same terrifying man who killed her friend and freezes in terror. Lu comes there and tells the hunter that if he kills her student, she will kill him instantly. He offers her a deal and asks her to throw the staff and become his prisoner in exchange for her students. She can't bear to see Seb suffering, so she throws her staff on the ground. Tyron laughs and throws his anti-magic roe on the staff as he tells Seb to wrap the staff in it and bring it to him. Seb does as he is told, and then Tyron calls Hort by her name and asks her to tie Lu. She shudders in fear, and the hunter asks her to cut the act because the truth is that she is a spy from the church's anti-witch faction. Hort screams to shut out his words, which lead her down memory lane. When she was young, horns suddenly started growing out of her head. Her mother, being a devout believer, sent her to the church, where they cut off her horns and put her in the orphanage. One day, they gave her the mission to enroll in the Magic Academy as a spy and report anything she found about the witches to the church. Hort was happy to be of service, but as she spent time in the academy and started making friends, she became burdened by guilt. She didn't want to be a spy anymore and wanted to be a proper witch, so when she got the chance to join the special training, she jumped on the offer, but she never imagined a member of the Dia Ignis would show up here. Hort falls to her knees heavy with guilt, but Seb puts on a forced smile as he says that it is not her fault. Seeing his effort, she decides to no longer deceive her friends. She immediately takes out Kudo's tail and uses it as a spell offering to unleash bright blue flames. She attacks Tyron with them, and he snatches his robe from Seb's hands to protect himself. The robe blocks the attack, and Hort freaks out as Tyron approaches her. He is about to smash her, when suddenly Seb hears the voice of Ludens asking the boy to use him. Seb is entranced by the staff, and he picks it up despite Lu's objection. The staff core glows as it absorbs his magic, and then suddenly, the black fluid spreads out in all directions. Everyone is worried about Seb as the black fluid streaks distort the area and then form a giant sphere around them. A few hours later, Seb opens his eyes to see Hort on top of him. He flusters and backs away, and she immediately hugs him while crying tears of joy that he is still alive. However, Lu is not happy about what happened and lectures Seb as she shows him the destruction he just caused. She yells at him that using the staff of Ludens is suicide, and then calls all three of her students completely reckless. As they continue the journey after that, Seb asks her why he is still alive. Lu tells him that his magic was simply much more than what Ludens could absorb. While everyone else is shocked, Lu believes that Seb has practically infinite magic, which is why he finds it so difficult to use magic like normal wizards. Lu then tells Kudo that he is coming with them this time, and when he tries to refuse, she climbs on him until he gives in. He says that he should at least find and reattach his tail, but Hort tells him that she used it as a spell offering, and he loses his temper. At night, Seb and Hort sip coffee outside while Lu and Kudo rest inside the inn. She removes her hat and makes Seb feel her antlers while telling her the story of her childhood. In her childhood, everyone said that the horns were proof that Hort was the child of a demon, but just now she learned from Lu that she has the blood of a beast folk in her veins. Beast folk are created when a witch grants the power of a beast to a warrior. However, if both the warrior and the witch die, the power attaches itself to the witch's bloodline, which is what happened to her. Hort thanks Seb for trusting in her and kisses him on the cheek before running off to sleep. Just as she leaves, Lu pops up right next to Seb and tells him that Hort would have let him hit if he tried just a bit harder. The next day, the other two wizards are arrested by the police because they were leaking out information to the church in exchange for money. Lu declares that only 4 of them will continue the journey now. First, she wants Kudo to heal his destroyed hands using healing magic, but he says that healing magic uses the most magic power and he doesn't have enough of it. Lu replies that he has Seb, who has a magic power bank with unlimited charge. She reveals that the most efficient way of magic transfer is by kiss, but Hort immediately rejects even the imagination of the unholy kiss between Seb and Kudo. So Lu tells them that they can use normal skin contact as well. However, if things go wrong and Kudo absorbs more magic than he can handle, he will die a horrible death. That is why she decides to be the connecting link between them. Lu holds their hands and transfers magic from Seb to Kudo, who chants the healing spell, and within seconds, his destroyed arms and tail are completely regenerated. The villagers are amazed to see this, and Lu calls for a party, and everyone gets busy singing and dancing. Soon after that, they reach a huge city where a passing carriage spills mud all over Seb. Lu tells him not to worry because her usual hotel has a very nice public bath. As Seb and Kudo clean themselves in the boys' bath, Kudo reveals his backstory. 6 years ago, he was part of a freak show. A powerful witch attacked the northern region and destroyed almost everything. Kudo somehow survived the destruction and was rescued by a church knight. That time, beast folk were still heavily discriminated against, but despite that, the dragon-riding knight saved him with a smile, and ever since then, Kudo has dreamt of joining the church and mage army like him. The next day, they resume their journey peacefully. Everywhere they go, people are familiar with Lu. She knows the best places to fish and rest. She teaches her students how to survive in the wild and also encourages them to use magic to help others. Everyone opens up to her, and she tells them that because she lives on the power given to her by the staff of Ludens, she has been a lowly for over 300 years. She doesn't even need to eat, sleep, and she can't even reproduce, so life is boring for her. So the only thing that makes her feel alive is having fun, and she feels really excited when something dangerous happens in the world. One day, a boy comes running towards them and tells them that it is not safe for them to be outside. He grabs Lu's hand and takes everyone to a hollow tree trunk, where he uses a magic spell to create a barrier that hides them perfectly but doesn't block the sound. Suddenly, a white tiger beastman comes there and starts calling out the boy. He threatens to break his friend's bones if he doesn't come out. The beastman hears the heartbeat of the people hiding in the hollow tree trunk, and he swings his blade at them. The barrier is shattered and the boy tumbles out of it. Seb and his friends jump right after him to protect him, but the beastman mercenary says that it will be impossible to use magic against him because he will kill them before they can finish chanting their spell. Suddenly, he notices someone behind him and turns around to find Lou lunging at him with an attack. The beastman parries her attack and she tracks back to a tree branch, telling her students to run. They follow her command, and when Lou taunts the mercenary if he is not going to chase them, he replies that turning his back on her would be suicide. He seems oddly knowledgeable about the staff of Ludens, a special training program, and the witch village, which frustrates Lou. The mercenary withdraws from the fight because he knows he cannot win against her and tells her to head to the village immediately because her students might be in danger. At the same time, Seb, Hort, and Kudo have safely escorted the boy to the village church, where a blindfolded priest named Dan greets them. The boy tells Dan that the three people saved him and he asks them if they are wizards. Seb is confused and asks how he knew that, and the priest says that everyone in the target village knows that they are going to be here. Seb then asks him about the tiger beastmen who attacked them, and Dan says that the beastman named Yohai is a mercenary who guards the village on behalf of a witch and tells the students to run away from this place because it is dangerous. He explains that 2 years ago, the witch stationed here by the academy suddenly surrendered to an invader without even fighting. The invading witch took control of the area, and since then, no one has been able to oppose her. Seb suddenly realizes that 2 of the students in the special group were arrested for snitching on the church. Hort was a spy, Kudo is a beast folk, and Seb himself is the worst student in the academy. He believes that they were sent here to get rid of them in a roundabout manner, and his friends freak out on hearing this. Kudo says that they should contact the Church and Mage Army, but Dan informs him that they still call themselves the Church Army in this region, and it won't help a village with witches and wizards. While everyone is in doubt, Lou suddenly makes her appearance. She asks her students to doubt this shady-looking priest because he may very well be in league with the tiger mercenary. Dan asks her to try killing him if she is so suspicious, but Lou claims to not be a fan of needless violence. She asks him to take them on a tour of the village to prove that he is not an enemy. The priest obliges and takes them to the village they are supposed to stay in. There they find the father of the boy waiting for him. The boy named Leos and his dad give them a tour of the village and say that the former witch was truly their friend. Kumino asks why she abandoned the village without trying to fight the invader then, but the man has no idea about it. The rest of the villagers hide from them in their homes, and he explains that they are not fond of strangers. He then takes them to a house where 4 human-sized dolls are hanging creepily. Leo's dad explains that a couple of years ago, some people tried to escape the village, so the witch and her mercenary dealt with them and put these dolls as a threat for anyone who tries to leave. However, he insists that the witch doesn't cause any problems for the villagers if they don't break her rules. They enter the shabby house after that, and as Lou finishes examining it, she declares that they should kill the witch controlling the area. Hort suggests that they can go back to the academy and get help from the Church and Mage Army, but Seb is opposed to the idea since it will turn the village into a battlefield. He wants to do something about the problem on their own. However, Kudo grabs him by his collar, telling him that they have no chance to win against a witch who can command the fearsome tiger mercenary. He claims that this fight will end in their deaths, but Seb takes his hands off and says that when he touched the staff of Ludens, he realized that he was not afraid of dying. Hort meekly says that the mere thought scares her, and Seb just tells her to leave the village with Kudo so he and Lou can fight on their own. With tears in her eyes, Hort says that what she meant was that the thought of Seb dying scares her. He cannot understand her words with his single-digit emotional quotient, and Hort starts crying as she runs away. Seb tries to chase after her to apologize, but Lou stops him because if he apologizes without knowing what he did wrong, the girl will get even more hurt. Kudo tells him that Hort was hurt because she considers him a friend and doesn't want a friend to die in vain. Seb understands a bit now, and he runs to find her and apologize. Meanwhile, Hort is in the church, where she meets a tiny and timid girl named Lily who tries to comfort her. Suddenly, the blindfolded priest appears behind them and scolds Lily away. He then asks Hort about the reason she came here, and after telling him about her fight with Seb, she tries to leave, but then notices the symbol of Dia Agnes on the priest's cane. She freaks out on realizing that he's an enemy and starts walking backwards when she suddenly finds herself tied in strong strings. Dan draws out a scythe hidden in his cane and points it at Hort's neck, telling her to resume acting as a spy for the anti-witch faction if she wants to live. On the other hand, Seb returns to the house empty-handed. He could not find any information about Hort, so Lou decides to track her magic instead. A search leads them to a cave in the forest, where they spot blood on the floor and Lu senses the magical trace of multiple people inside the cave. Kudo wants to retreat because it is a trap, but Lu thinks that if the witch of the region wants to welcome them, she will take her invitation. She uses her staff to sense and defuse all the traps in the cave, but Kudo is still not convinced to fight. Lu tries to rile him up by reminding him that he plans to join the Church and Mage army, who do not fear fighting opponents stronger than them. In fact, their leader once defeated and tamed a dragon who destroyed his entire kingdom. She asks Kudo if he wants to be like him or wuss out in the fight, and he chooses the second option. He runs out of the cave but finds Yohei there, who offers the lizard to join him instead because that will help him grow stronger. In response, Kudo asks Yohei about the blood in the cave and demands to know what he did with Hort. Yohei just laughs as he says that he ate the girl and she was quite juicy. This infuriates Kudo, who turns red and blue with rage and tells the tiger that he will definitely kill him. Inside the cave, Seb uses light magic to illuminate the cave, but he can't control his power, and Lu is nearly blinded by the lights. He finally manages to bring the spell under his control, but Lu doesn't stop nagging him for a long time. She says that any witch will want an apprentice like him with infinite power, and that suddenly brings back some forgotten memories for Seb. He falls to his knees as he remembers them, but gets up immediately. Lu tells him that he can return now because going ahead will be dangerous for him, but he is willing to face the dangers to save his friend. Suddenly, from a door deep inside the cave, some tentacles shoot towards Seb and grab him. Lu tries to help him, but then her staff is pulled away from her. Dan arrives there instantly and kicks Lu right into the room with Seb. As the door closes, he tells Lu that she should have killed him the moment she suspected him. Seb soon gets up to see another witch in front of him. She releases a soothing blue light all around her, and with one look, Seb recognizes her as the witch who rescued him from his lonesome life. The witch calls him, saying that she has been waiting for him for a very long time. Seb eagerly asks her who she is, but Lu is suspicious of the new witch. The witch doesn't like her either, and just with a flick of her fingers, she sends her flying. As Seb rushes to Lu's aid, the witch tells him that she is disappointed that a special existence like his is surrounded by worthless fools. She suddenly throws Quart's bloodied hat forward, and the distraught Seb asks what she did. The witch says that she let her tiger mercenary eat her, devastating him even further. She claims that she went to great lengths to get him back from Albus, and that included taking control of this village. As Seb thinks this is his fault, the memories of his forgotten past return to him once again. The witch asks him to come to her so that she can take him to a place befitting his level, but he refuses. He says that he was perfectly happy with his friends who treated him well even when everyone thought he was a loser. He tells the witch that he will decide who is worthy of being by his side and judges her unfit for that. He plans to use all his magic in one spell to self-destruct, but just as he begins chanting, Lu suddenly kisses him. Unable to process what is happening, he gives in to her, and after a long and sloppy kiss, Lu feels full of magic energy. She chants the same magic Hort used against Tyron earlier and shoots a blue flame dragon towards the witch, but she nullifies her magic instantly. The witch proudly tells Lu that she is the creator of that spell and it is foolish for anyone to wield it against her. She declares that she is the original Witch Zero who wrote the Grimoire of Zero, and Seb realizes that they have no chance against her. As Zero comes towards him, he tries to shield Lu, but surprisingly, no attack comes towards him. Instead, there's confetti flying all around the cave. Zero pokes Seb's nose, telling him that from today on, she is the one who will supervise him in the special training. He is still as clueless as ever, and now even Lu has started praising Zero. Seb looks dumbfounded, so she tells him that this was all a test, and he has passed. Suddenly, Hort comes running towards them, and Seb is relieved to see that she is fine. She hugs him and tells him that their arrival at the village was an elaborate test, and all the villagers were in on it. The blindfolded priest tested her too and asked to remain a spy, but she spat in his face, and being a pervert, he liked it. Dan comes there just then and smacks her for talking shit about him. He returns Lu's sight to her and asks if she knew that this was a test. Lu replies that it was obvious that everything was set up because the house they stayed in was too clean and well stocked, considering that it was abandoned 2 years ago. Just then, Yoda comes there with Kudo, who has passed his test too. Kudo was glad to see his friends alive, and he runs to hug them. At night, the villagers throw a party for the wizards and witches who passed the test. After the party, Zero once again congratulates the 3 students, and Hort asks her why she was trying so hard to fail them. She replies that since they have great talents, she needed to check if they had the character to match their potential. She claims that if they reached their full potential and then chose to walk on the path of evil, it would bring about a calamity. Zero tells Hort that she has talent that will make her equal to Headmaster Albus in just a few decades. As for Kudo, Zero believes that if he hones his healing magic, he can even become immortal. She then claims that Seb's peak is invisible to even her. Zero claims that because of his infinite magic power, Seb may live for centuries, and if he keeps honing his magic during that time, nothing will be impossible for him. However, she adds that if they neglect their training, they will never be more than third-rate magicians. Zero then explains that they will have to set up their unique stores in the village so that the villagers can easily ask for their help. She wants to tell them more, but then the tiger and the priest interrupt her lecture with food. After that, the three students walk to their homes when Kudo suddenly sees a man riding a dragon in the night sky, and his head glows white as he recognizes the knight who saved his life. He tells his friends about the knight, and they instantly run to meet him. The dragon-riding knight lands in the village and turns out that he is here to deliver some letters to the three students. As Seb and his friends open the letter, they find that they have unrestricted freedom to use their magic as they please now. Everyone is shocked to hear this, even the Dragon Knight, who realizes that this is authorization to engage in battle with the anti-witch faction. They return home after that, and Lou throws a tantrum because she also wanted to see a dragon up close, and this might be her only chance because she plans to set out on a journey now. The students are depressed to hear this, but then Lou tells them that she is not going anywhere until she has read all the books Zero has written, and it will probably take a long time. Everyone is happy to hear this, and they rush to hug her. Later, when Lou and Zero are left alone, Lou confronts her about her weakening magic and expresses concern that she might be trying to get Seb under her wing to steal his magic. Zero tells her a story about a witch who killed Seb's mom in front of him and tried stealing his power. She died of a magic overdose instantly, and this incident left a deep emotional scar on Seb. As a result, he sealed his memories and suffered endlessly after that. So when Zero found him, she decided to send him to the academy to give him a second chance at life. However, she called him here to monitor him in case his powers go out of control. Lou asks Zero by what right she is trying to control Seb's life, and she replies that he is her nephew. This comes as a shock to Lou because Zero's only sibling was the notorious wizard number 13, who stole the grimoire of Zero from her and caused the destructive war. Zero admits that same exceptional wizard is Seb's dad. 2 months have passed since that incident, and the three students have settled into their respective shops now. Hort works as a freelancer, fulfilling various requests of the villagers. Kudo uses his healing magic and works as an assistant at the clinic. Meanwhile, Seb runs a magic shop and supplies anyone who needs magic. His biggest customers are his two friends, both of whom come close to climaxing when they receive his magic power. Seb stays at home while his friends leave on his duty, and as he is thinking about how he is getting used to this life, Lou enters the house. She and Lugans have breakfast with Seb, and she lashes out at him for being a shut-in. He says that he needs to stay at home in case anyone needs magic, and on top of that, he does cooking, cleaning, and laundry too. He claims that he feels empty if he doesn't do the house chores, and Lou pities the boy. She climbs on a chair to hug him, and her embrace comforts her strangely, thinking that he needs someone to teach him to be a human. She then decides to send him out of the house for a change and asks him to fetch some tea leaves for her. On the way, he runs into Laios and tells him that he's going to find some tea leaves. The boy claims that he knows where the tea leaves grow and leads Seb to the forest. Seb is uncertain about going deeper into the forest without protection, but Laios runs away on his own. Seb finally finds him hiding on top of a tree, and he asks him to come down. Laios apologizes because he was just lying to him to look cool, and now he has forgotten the way home. Seb starts comforting him, and then a mouse starts chewing his pants. Laios immediately recognizes the mouse as one of Lily's pets and says that they should follow it to get out of the forest. So he and Seb run after the mice and soon arrive at the church. Laios finds his mom waiting there, and she angrily carries him home. Meanwhile, Dan appears behind Seb, oozing a murderous aura. He invites him into the church, and the girl Lily greets him there. Dan tells her to take her hood off, but she refuses because she doesn't want to startle their guest. The priest doesn't listen to her and takes off the hood by force. Lily is embarrassed as her true mouse-like form is exposed in front of Seb, but Dan tells her to stop kicking up a fuss and prepare food for their guest. Lily has low self-esteem because she's a mouse beast folk, but apparently Seb doesn't even understand what the problem with that is. Lily soon brings some food for him, and Dan scolds Seb for going into the forest without being aware of the dangers. He tells him that he will find the tea leaves near Zero's house, but also advises him to come out into the village more often and live like a proper human being. Seb heads out after that and meets Hort on the way. She is surprised to find him outside the house and helps him clean his face after the delicious meal he just had. Seb notices blood on her sleeve, but Hort tells him that it belongs to Yohei and not her. She went to the forest with a mercenary to hunt some wolves, but she panicked on being surrounded. She took too long to chant her spell, and in the end, she hit Yohei instead of the wolves. Hort cries, thinking that she is a failure as a witch, and when Lily takes her away, Lou pops up next to him, saying that they need him to supply some magic. She takes him to Zero, who's trying to stop the mercenaries from bleeding. As soon as Zero sees her nephew Seb, she kisses him Alabama style and absorbs enough magic from him to cast a high-level healing spell on Yohei. He immediately feels better, and the first thing he does is express his jealousy to the boy. Seb then asks Zero if Hort is going to be expelled because of this accident. Neither Zero nor Yohei think that she has done something that makes her unqualified for the training, and they will give her more chances. That reminds Seb of Leo's, and he leaves to meet him to give him another chance to play in the forest. Meanwhile, Zero learns that Lou sent Seb out on an unnecessary errand just to get him out of the house. She complains that she doesn't like him staying shut in the house, but Zero and Yohei have no issues with it. They want to let the boy do whatever he wants, but Lou throws a tantrum that he is made of greater things. Yohei leaves for his home, leaving the two witches alone. Lou then asks Zero why she only took a little bit of magic from Seb when she needs more. Zero replies that as Seb's family and supervisor, she cannot take more than she needs from him. Lou says that she will grow old and die at this rate, but Zero has no regrets about that as she has lived long enough already. On the other hand, Kudo has also messed up in his job. He went to a neighboring village to heal some patients and got too carried away. He tried healing all of them at once but passed out midway, and the doctor carried him back home. As he wakes up in his bedroom, he wonders what happened and goes downstairs where his friends tell him the truth. He's embarrassed by what happened, but then learns that Hort messed up even more than him, and they start bickering. Lou arrives there just in time to stop their fight, and then tells them to work hard to improve on their mistakes from tomorrow. She also informs them that all three of them have to visit Zero together tomorrow. The next day, the trio goes to Zero's home where they see her magnificent book collection. She explains that these are just the books she keeps with herself, and the more important ones are hidden in the Forbidden Library in the north. Hort is really excited to check out the library with her friends in the future, but Kudo says that is a hard pass for him. After the war with the evil witch, many demonic monsters were let out in the north, and they still make it an unsuitable place to live. Zero affirms that, and even Seb drops out of Hort's plan to visit the library in the future. Hort tries to convince them that with Seb's unlimited magic, her attack spells, and Kudo's healing, they will be invincible. Kudo simply replies that he can't trust a witch who attacks her own teammates. As he mentions this, Zero suddenly enters serious mode and tells Hort that she has a special lesson for her, and until she learns how to cancel her spells, she is not going back home. She drags the girl along while Seb discovers an interesting book. Outside, Zero makes Hort attack her and expects her to cancel her spell at the last moment. Hort's spell almost hits her, but she manages to cancel it in time, and Zero says that this is satisfactory for now. She tells Hort to practice by using the same high-level spell to light candles in her home. Hort complains that she doesn't have enough magic, so Zero uses the same amount of magic as her, but the result of her spell is much greater. Zero lectures her about trying new ways to use magic when suddenly she collapses because of magic depletion. The students immediately run to her side, and Seb tries to transfer magic by holding hands. That doesn't work, so he suggests a kiss like yesterday, but Zero says that it is not required. She stands up, still staggering from weakness, and claims that a good meal will help her get better in no time. She collapses once again, but Seb catches her, and that reminds Zero of her brother, the Wizard 13. He takes her to her room and tries sharing magic with her again, but it doesn't work. Seb is confused, but Zero tells him that if she wants, she can suck his magic dry. However, his attention suddenly goes to her eyes, which are an exact replica of his. Seb asks her if she knows her mother by any chance. Zero denies that, but claims that she knew his father. Seb had never even thought that he had a father before now, but before he can ask Zero about it, she points out the book he took from the library. Seb says that he took it to help him gather medicinal herbs, and Zero says that he will have a hard time trying to decode it because of the terrible handwriting. He simply replies that his handwriting is pretty similar, and can understand it fairly well. Zero reveals that Seb's dad was the one who wrote the book. She claims that he was an unparalleled genius, and there may be secrets hidden in the book that only Seb can decipher. Just then, Yohei comes there running with food and thanks Seb for keeping Zero company. He apologizes for not being able to supply her with magic, and Zero decides to tell him something important. She tells him that the reason he and his friends are here is to develop as magic users, but if he doesn't want to be a wizard and prefers to remain a magic supplier, he has no role here. Soon after that, Seb and Leos enter the forest, and while he is initially dazed, he quickly regains his composure and collects useful herbs with the help of the book. They spot a deer carcass before arriving at a patch of red flowers, which is the main herb they need to collect. While Leos is celebrating their find, Seb feels a sinister presence around him. He looks around and finds a throbbing lump of muscles with spikes protruding from it. He tells Leos to get down, but it is too late, and the throbbing lump shoots the spikes outwards with great force. Seb only suffers some cut wounds, but when he turns around, he finds that Leos has been impaled by a spike. Seb panics upon seeing the boy severely injured. He wants to heal him, but since he has never cast a healing spell successfully before, he decides to take him to the village immediately. Seb limps as he runs while carrying Leos, who starts losing consciousness because of the pain. As Leos blacks out, Seb curses himself for not practicing healing magic. He begs someone to help him when suddenly he hears Lu's voice. Seb looks up to find that Lu is communicating with him using a bird made of magic. She tells him to keep moving ahead because Zero is on her way to the forest, and if he hurries, he can still save the boy. Seb gets up and walks towards the village, praying with every step that he makes it in time. Suddenly, Zero and her mercenary come there. Seb apologizes that he couldn't heal the boy, but Yohei tells him that he did well enough on his own. Just then, Lu arrives there and Zero asks her to share some of her blood with the boy to save his life. Lu cuts her wrist and lets a red fountain spout out of it, and then Zero uses her healing power to save Leos. Soon after that, they reach the hospital clinic. Lu passed out because of blood loss, while Zero passed out because she used too much magic. Kumino has treated them for now, and he tells Seb to stop crying, but his tears seem beyond his control at this point. He tells everyone about the strange monster he fought earlier, and Lu says that it is one of the demonic monsters that the demons created to torment humans. The strange monster disguises itself as prey, and then attacks its target with the blood-sucking spikes that grow into new monsters after some time. Zero believes that the demonic monster must only be found in the north, and if there is one so far south, it must have been brought here on purpose. She sends Yohei to investigate more, but as soon as he opens the door, he finds Hold'em, who has come to do a surprise inspection of the village. The two beastmen go to the church and discuss the details with Dan. Hold'em says that he has heard rumors about someone catching the monsters and selling them off, and the presence of one in the forest proves it. Dan decides to take Lily along and investigate the monster, and Yohei also plans to go to the nearby villages to alert them. Since both the capable warriors are going out of the village, Hold'em thinks that the security of the village will be weak. So Yohei asks him to stay behind and protect the village in their stead, and he reluctantly accepts the job. Suddenly, Zero comes barging into the room and tells Yohei that she's going to come with him. He tries to convince her to back down, citing her depleted magic, but she is his boss in the end. Soon, Hold'em reaches the hospital and tells the students everything that led to his being in charge of the village's security. After telling them everything, he tells them to run back to their home and is left alone with Lu. Lu is suspicious of Hold'em's timing, which coincides with the discovery of the monster, but he tells her that it is a mere coincidence because if he had planned to destroy the village, he would have already done so. He then asks her if she cannot do something about the monster herself because he knows that his master only ever relied on her help. Lu recalls Serena, Hold'em's master, who was her dear friend. Serena died protecting people, and Lu is sure that she would ask her to save the village, which was her dream project. She decides to accept the mission but asks Hold'em what her compensation would be. He replies that he will plead and beg Albus to let her access the Grimoire of Zero, and Lu gladly takes up the offer. Meanwhile, Seb tells his friends that today he learned that he must work hard to become a wizard, and that is why he needs them to teach them how to cast spells in exchange for getting their magic refilled. Kubito and Hort have no objection, and Hort even asks him to refill her magic supply with a kiss someday, but being a brickhead, he doesn't understand what she wants and shoots down her request. Just then, Hold'em comes there, and Hort says that she will lead him to the inn where he can rest. He tries to act cool and says that he won't go to the inn with the girl as the village population might increase, and the three students plan to file a complaint with the headmaster about her servant's behavior. Suddenly, Leo's dad arrives there and takes Seb away for a private chat. He knows that it is not Seb's fault that Leos got injured and he even saved his life, but despite that, the dad does not want him to hang out with his son anymore. As Seb is left alone, someone attacks him from behind. It is the same witch hunter Tyron they fought in the forest earlier, and he strangles Seb and knocks him out. Seb's face is tied in a bag, and he is thrown in a speeding carriage where he hears a woman's voice asking him how long he is going to keep his power hidden. Suddenly, his forgotten memories return to him. Seb sees his mother hiding him in a safe spot and warning him to never approach a witch who has eyes like him because she will take everything from him. She locks him safely, but then suddenly, an explosion shakes the house. A power-hungry witch enters through the hole in the wall and tells Seb to come out of hiding if he doesn't want his mother to die. Seb comes out of the secret chamber, but the witch still mercilessly kills his mother in front of his eyes. Seb is left devastated at this, and the witch grabs him to steal his power. She inserts her hand into his chest and grabs his heart, letting his power flow into her. However, before she can take it out, Seb grabs her hand and overloads her with magic. The evil witch somehow takes her hand out, but is too late by then, and she meets a horrible death by being melted alive. Seb screams as he sees those memories, but then Tyron takes off his mask and slaps him to shut him down. He scoffs, saying that he has orders to take him alive this time so he can't do much damage to him. Suddenly, they hear someone approaching them and find that it is Hort and Kudo, who are riding a cart towards them despite the fact that they cannot control horses. They jump off the cart before it crashes and stop right in front of the kidnapped Seb. They freak out upon seeing Tyron here, but Kudo realizes that they must fight him to rescue Seb. He cuts his tail and hands it to the grossed out Hort, who uses it as a spell offering and unleashes the powerful blue flames at Tyron. She does so without incantation, and he doesn't have enough time to block her attack. Not only that, Hort's control has improved, and she burns the ropes binding Seb without harming him. Tyron prepares to fight them, but then Seb suddenly grabs his arm, telling him to not move or he will die instantly. On the other hand, Lou is in the forest to clean up the demonic monster. She puts her staff to work, and it immediately spreads out in all directions. She retrieves all the monster fragments before gobbling them up. Lou is satisfied that the job is well done, but then she comes across a man who is swollen all over because he got stung by wild bees. She takes him back to the village, where she finds Holden lying unconscious. She wakes him up and asks what he is doing here. He suddenly recalls that a man came to inform him that Seb had been kidnapped. Hort and Kudo wanted to help him immediately, and when he tried to stop them, he suddenly fell asleep as if someone had cast a spell on him. Holden panics that the students might be in danger at this rate, but Lou tells him to stop overreacting. She knows that he is the one behind the kidnapping, as it must be the headmaster's plan to create an incident in the village and see if the students can deal with it or not. Holden agrees with her, but then tells her that the problem is that he contracted the fearsome witch hunter for the job. Back in the forest, Tyron just headbutts Seb and trips him to the ground, laughing at his confident words earlier. He crushes Seb's hands with his hammer and then knocks out his friends too, saying that they are still too naive to threaten to kill someone. He then looks at Seb and thinks that since this level of damage can be fixed with magic, his employer will be fine with it. Then, out of nowhere, his hand holding the hammer is cleanly cut, and Tyron is tied by sharp strings on all sides. He realizes that it is the work of the blindfolded priest, but he is sure that he saw him leave the village earlier. Dan comes forward from hiding and says that he came back because Lily's mice alerted him that a pest had entered the village. He cuts off all the lanterns nearby, and then, as the moon is covered by clouds, it is dark enough for him to take off his eye patch that hides his terribly sensitive eyes. Dan has the eyes of a wizard, and he cuts both legs of Tyron, saying that this much should be fine because he can be fixed by magic. Tyron gives up, and soon Zero and Yohai arrive there because they feel that Dan will turn the attacker into mincemeat on his own. Soon, Lou and Hold'em arrive there. Hold'em is surprised that Tyron took out all three students alone, then Zero asks him what his relation to the criminal is. Hold'em wets his pants and hides behind Lou, while Zero tells him that his life depends on his answer. Everyone goes to the dungeon under the church, and Hold'em says that Tyron was given the task of bringing back one student alive from the village if he wanted to be free from his criminal record. Lou realizes that this time the ability of the village to protect the students is being judged. While everyone blames Hold'em for his incompetence, Zero thinks that this test exposed the weak defense of the village. Yoli and Dan think that this situation arose only because they had to deal with a monster and their village lacks fighting power. Yoli believes that they can protect their village just fine, but when they try to cover for other villages, it becomes a problem. Zero knows that they can't abandon the other villages or the reputation of their witch village will go down. Amidst the confusion, Hold'em gives her an idea and tells Zero to use Tyron if she wants some extra fighting power. Tyron says that this was not part of the deal, but Hold'em tells him that he failed the deal already, and if he wants to live, he should do as he says. Zero accepts this suggestion, but the next day, when she tells the students about it, Hort opposes it with all her might. She believes that Tyron may betray them at any moment, and he should be executed. Zero tells her that it is fine if she wants revenge, but that she will just be perpetuating a cycle of hate between the witches and ordinary people. She explains that Tyron has committed many sins, but he is being given the chance to atone for them by protecting the village. Hort says that Tyron has killed many innocent people, but Dan tells her that when he worked for the church, he also killed anyone he was ordered to, no matter who they were. Lou joins in, saying that her staff has also taken the lives of many witches, and that means she should also be executed. Hort cries that it is not like that, and after being pressured from all sides, she decides to cancel her appeal for Tyron's execution. Instead, she wants him to live under the constant supervision of Yohei and decides to keep an eye on him when they work outside. The next day, Hold'em leaves the village and offers Lu to come with her to the Forbidden Library in the north. She refuses his offer, saying that right now she is more interested in witnessing the growth of her students than the Grimoire of Zero. She returns home with that and finds Seb telling Hort that his memories have returned. He explains that they are terrible memories and he doesn't feel like he remembered them naturally. Seb says that he still doesn't feel like a proper person even with the memories because he doesn't understand human emotions. He reveals that Lu told him about Hort being in love with him and the girl turns red from embarrassment. Seb, however, doesn't understand how it feels to love someone and he desperately wants to know that. Hort says that it feels like the person you love is special and Seb tells her that she is special to him too. She replies that it doesn't mean he loves her and decides to give him some more indicators. As Seb thinks about them, he recalls his moments with Lu and says that he might actually like her more. Hort feels heartbroken, but she still tells Seb to rely on her if he needs some love advice. After that, she asks him to refill her magic, but as Seb is about to do so, the memory of the witch melting from magic overdose pops up in his mind. He flinches and tells Hort that he cannot give her any magic, and then runs away to see Zero. He is anxious as he enters her house, but quickly calms down as he sits for tea. Seb tells her that his memories have returned for no reason, but Zero believes that it was because his life was in danger. She is relieved that he is not shaken up by the harsh memories so much and states that it is because he is no longer an empty shell. She comforts Seb, telling him that he must confront those harsh memories and win against them if he wants to grow strong enough to protect everyone. Seb then tells her that his mother told him to stay away from a witch with the same eyes as his. Zero smiles and her eyes glow as she reveals the secrets behind their similar eyes. She tells Seb that his father, Wizard 13, was her brother and they both inherited these eyes from their father. Seb is surprised to hear this and his eyes glow in resonance with his aunt's. Zero tells him that 13 was her only family and he would have done anything for her, and Seb's birth is related to that too. She reveals that her magic was depleting rapidly, so 13 found Seb's mother and had a child with her because their combined genes would give birth to a wizard with limitless magic. He planned to offer that power to Zero, but Seb's mother caught wind of it and ran away with her son. Zero says that the pain he experienced was because of her, but Seb says that it was not her fault. He even credits her for being the reason for his birth, and Zero laughs, saying that he has inherited the best qualities from 13. Seb says that he wants to learn more about his father, and Zero says that he was thoroughly rational, which is what led him to start the war for a world ruled by witches. After learning that, Seb tells Zero that this morning he hesitated to supply Hort with magic because he feared she might die. He claims that he wants to keep being her magic supplier, and that is why he came to ask Zero for help, because even if he gives her some extra magic, she won't die. She smiles and stretches both her hands towards Seb, telling him that they will practice circulating magic to improve his control. He takes her hand, and they start circulating their magic when they hear someone scream. But Zero doesn't let Seb go, stating that he must master his control over magic before trying to help anyone. Meanwhile, Lu goes to the pond and decides to forget that she heard Seb say he likes her. However, Hort appears behind her just then and says that Seb likes her. She freaks out on hearing that and tumbles into the pond before telling Hort that she should snitch about someone else's feelings. Hort asks her if she's going to leave them now because she has heard that witches run away if their students fall in love with them. Lu affirms, but as Hort hugs her and begs her not to leave, she promises not to go anywhere until the special training ends. Suddenly, they hear Kudo's scream coming from the hospital. They reach the hospital quickly and find that a fight broke out there. Kudo is injured while Tyron has pinned down the boy Lu rescued in the forest last night. Hort tells him to let the boy go and he obeys, but the boy immediately grabs a shard of glass and lunges towards Lu, who simply uses Ludens to knock him out. Later, the boy is restrained and Kudo says that he was probably sent by the church to cause trouble here. Suddenly, a woman comes there and asks Kudo not to speak as if the entire church is evil. Lu recognizes the red-headed nerd as Heartful, the village school teacher, who came here to bring lunch for the patients. She gives Tyron his lunch and even gives one to the unconscious boy. Heartful pities the boy whom the heartless extremists sent here, but Lu believes that he was just bait to see how they would react to hostility. While Kudo, Lu, and Hort discuss how to handle the boy, Heartful approaches Tyron and tries to teach him some table manners. He doesn't care about that because the only manners he needs are how to kill his targets. Heartful tells him to stop acting like a gangster here because no one in the village will be afraid of him. He tries to test it out on her by strangling her, but Lu quickly points her weapon at him, and he backs down, despite Heartful claiming that it was nothing serious. Shigen volunteers to show Tyron around the village, and soon after they leave, Yohei arrives there. He decides to cancel his plans to torture the attacker after seeing that he's a mere boy, and Kudo lashes out at him, saying that he shouldn't torture criminals, even if they are adults. Yoi doesn't see a point in arguing and says that he will leave the boy with Dan, who will extract information using his means. Hort says that the priest can really use verbal torture, but then something comes flying towards her, and she blocks it at the last moment. It was thrown by Dan, who is not happy that she was trash talking behind his back yet again. He then notices that the boy has been awake for a long time and has heard everything they talked about. The boy opens his eyes and lunges at him, but Dan simply grabs his neck and slams him against the bed. He turns him around and then sits on him, telling him to recognize his position. He then asks Lu to make the room darker, and she uses the power of her staff to make it dark as night. Dan removes his eye patch and looks straight at the boy, telling him that he will ask some questions now, and if he lies, he will know. He asks the boy if he is alone and if someone will come to rescue him. Just by judging the tiny movements of his face muscles, Dan can tell when he is lying and when he is not. Afterwards, he tells Lu and Yohei that they didn't get much information from the boy. However, Lu believes that if a monster was sent along with the boy, it means that someone quite powerful within the church is involved. And since the mastermind must use better pawns than the boy he just sent, it means that there is something shady going on in secret, which they must uncover for the safety of the village. Hort listens to their conversation, and she is not happy that the adults are deciding everything on their own. She walks around the village aimlessly and decides to stop by the school, where she sees the shocking sight of Tyron teaching the kids to weave baskets. She asks Heartful what is going on, and she replies that Tyron is making traps to hunt fish. She claims that he is just a big man-child who tries his best to scare her every moment he gets. As Hort sees Tyron play with the kids, the memories of him killing her friends surface in her mind, and she feels confused and hurt. She doesn't want to leave a killer like him alone with the students, so she decides to keep an eye on him. However, the students are not afraid of him, and Heartful says that she is teaching them not to be afraid of anything without proper reason. On the other hand, Kudo gets a message from Lily's mouse that the boy's transfer to the north has been postponed. He scoffs at that and decides to take him somewhere. On the way, the boy complains that this was his chance to die like a hero and go down in history because he believes that witches and beast folk are evil monsters who need to be purged. Kudo is frustrated with him, but he still takes him to the church, where they eat food made by Lily. The boy is amazed by the taste, but when Kudo takes off Lily's hood and reveals that she is a mouse girl, he freaks out. Lily apologizes for deceiving him, and he feels embarrassed for reacting rudely to her. Kudo then takes him to a nice room to rest in, and the boy realizes that the church told him lies about the beastmen being evil. Later that night, Seb shows off the result of his training with Zero. He could now use the light spell efficiently and even divide the light into different shapes at the same time. His friends are impressed and try changing the light to different shapes on their own. Seb then asks Lu to lend him the Staff of Ludens because he wants to conduct an experiment. She is pleased to lend it to him. But then Seb says that he likes her and wants to marry her, which catches the 300-year-old and therefore legal Loli off guard. Hort tells him that he is being too hasty, and he asks Lu to forget about it, but she just lashes out at him. The next morning, the boy named Katie sees a dream about how the church brainwashed him into becoming a weapon against the witches. He is woken up from that horrible dream when Hort comes there to invite him to come fishing along with the village children. As they go to the river, Katie asks Hort how she can trust a person like Tyron, and she tells him that trust is something that needs to be earned and she doesn't trust Tyron yet. However, she is willing to give Katie a chance and ask him not to harm anyone without the power to fight back. Suddenly, his stomach makes an embarrassing sound, but while others just laugh at it, Katie seems to be hiding something from them. On the other hand, Seb wakes up Luke, who gets quite alarmed when she sees him in her room. However, all Seb wants is to conduct the experiment he talked to her about yesterday. He has made a magic potion using the knowledge in the book written by 13. Luke can't understand a single letter in the book, and she is shocked to know that Seb can understand it fully. However, as he tells her that his father wrote the book, she understands everything. She is shocked that Seb knows about 13 being his dad and is indifferent to the fact that his father was the biggest villain of the century. Seb says the important thing is that he found a way to infuse magic into potions in the book, and the potion he created is to replenish the magic of a wizard. He puts a drop on the staff's core and immediately gleams with magic. The staff takes the test tube out of Seb's hand and shoves all the potion before doing a dance to show that it is happy. Lu touches the staff and finds that it has gained magic equal to 2 witches, and Seb is surprised because he held back his power while making it. He decides to leave to make more potions, but before going, he tries to riz up Lu. She is flustered by his attempts and tells him to get lost while she goes to check on Katie. Meanwhile, Katie is with Hort and others, who watch the kids play in the river. Tyron thinks about his childhood with his abusive father and how he learned to make traps to survive as a hunter. A nasty noble contracted him to make traps to torture and hunt down his escaping slaves, but then Dan and his men killed the noble and made him join the Dia Ignis. He is brought back to reality when Heartful comes there, and they talk about her reasons for coming to a witch village, even though her hometown was destroyed by the Witch of the North. She goes to play with her students in the river, and while Hort asks the witch hunter if he is falling for the teacher, they spot Katie walking into the river like a zombie. Tyron senses danger and tells everyone to get away from Katie, whose stomach suddenly explodes and a monstrous jaw appears from within it. Tyron immediately jumps in between the monster and Heartful and kicks Katie away. He tries knocking him down with a punch, but then Katie sprouts blade-bearing arms out of his back and chops his hand. Tyron grabs Heartful and jumps out of the river before the monster can attack them again. Hort uses sleeping magic to stop the monster, but it doesn't affect him at all, and he starts to sprout more jaws out of his body. Tyron realizes that Katie brought more than one monster to this place, and this is a suicide attack. He tells everyone to run away so that he can kill the monster, but Hort tells him that he is in no state to fight. However, Heartful tells them that she will take the kids to safety and leaves the rest of them to fight. Katie comes out of the water and Hort tells Tyron to immobilize him while she chants her spell. So he holds Katie's claws and tries to keep his distance from him, but despite that, the monster keeps attacking him. Hort finishes chanting her spell and tells Tyron to back away, and he sacrifices his leg as he gets away from the monster in time. Hort's spell encases it in a stone pillar, but it is not enough and the monster bursts through it. They realize that they must kill it for sure this time, and Tyron lunges towards the monster, telling Hort to hit him with all her power. She is hesitant, but Kudo cuts off his tail and hands it to her, and she begins chanting the spell for the blue flame attack. In the time it takes, the monster pierces through Tyron's chest, and he thinks that this is the end for him. However, as Hort's attack hits the monster and burns him down, Kudo uses his most powerful healing spell to completely heal Tyron's injuries. Unfortunately, their problems are still not over. Hundreds of Venus flytrap-like monsters are born from the burnt corpse of the big monster, and Tyron realizes that they are doomed. He doesn't even have the energy to run because of the blood loss, and Hort and Kudo come to support him. Suddenly, he notices something and immediately pins them to the ground. He tells them to stay completely silent because help is here. Lewis arrives at the scene, and she tells Ludens that it is snack time, and the staff core takes the form of a giant jaw that swallows all the tiny monsters whole. Soon, Seb, Hort, and Kuno organize a funeral for Katie. Suddenly, they see a dragon flying above the village and immediately rush to the village to meet the dragon-riding knight. He informs them that they have been summoned to the academy immediately because this village can become a battlefield any day now. They immediately head to Zero to seek an explanation. Kudo and Hort say that they need all the help possible if the village is going to become a war zone, but Zero tells them that if they don't follow the instructions to return to the academy, he will be expelled. Seb declares that he would like to drop out in that case so that he can help in the war. He knows that being witches and wizards, they cannot go on offensive even if they are attacked, so the only way to fight is by using traps. Seb says that he will lay traps that capture people without killing them and quickly end the war. Zero asks him how he will do that, and he shows her the magic potion he made. She is surprised to see it and tells him that if he can end the war early because of the potion, she will allow him to graduate immediately instead of expelling him. Lou barges into the room at the same time and declares that this will be a great opportunity to conduct the graduation exam for the students. Zero tells her that this is a matter concerning the academy and not her, but Lou complains that if they send the students back, she will also leave. However, she wants to stay behind and protect the village, so she throws a tantrum and begs Zero to let everyone stay here to fight. Zero agrees to talk to Albus about this, and Lou immediately starts laughing in anticipation of the entertaining war. Zero sends a message with new details to Albus, and she's impressed with the idea of winning the war without any casualties. On top of that, she wants to use this war to humiliate the anti-witch faction in front of the entire world. She sends Hold'em to the commander of the Church and Mage army to get troops, and also informs her allies to support the village in the war. Back at the village, Hort tests out Seb's magic potion, and just a drop recharges her magic by a significant amount. She asks him how he made it, and Seb tells her and Kudo that he found the recipe in a book written by his father. They are shocked to learn that Seb's dad was a wizard too, but when he tells them that he was the evil wizard 13, they are even more stunned. On the other hand, Heartful calls Tyron to her class because the students want to thank him for protecting them yesterday. He is left speechless by that, and Heartful shoves a cookie in his mouth because he seems to be lost in thoughts. After they are done partying with the kids, the two adults are left alone. Heartful tries to get close to the witch hunter because she's aware that he likes her, but he decides to walk away from her. believing that he is not fit for love. He goes to the inn where he finds Court eating her food. She teases him about his relationship with Heartful before coming to the main topic. She explains that Seb plans to lay out traps to end the war quickly, and Tyron's ability will be the most important in his plan. Court claims that personally she doesn't support letting him be so important to their plan, but seeing how he risked his life to save others earlier, she is willing to give him more chances. She leaves him with that, but her words hit Tyron hard and he is torn between guilt for his past actions and dread for the future. The next day, Tyron leads the villagers in setting up traps and boosting their defenses, while Zero and the three students figure out the best way to stop their enemies. Lou and Yohei just watch them from the distance, and he says that if their enemies are strong, the traps will become useless, and they will have to fight to kill. Dan arrives there just then and says that the enemy forces comprise around 10,000 people, but they are all poor farmers and peasants. The anti-witch faction wants to force the witches to kill them so that they appear as villains. Suddenly, Lily comes running there to get Yohei to help her with food prep. Dan tells her that when the villagers evacuate to safety tonight, she should go with them, and she refuses. She claims that she will stay here and protect Dan, which moves Lou, and she starts cuddling with the mouse girl. Both Lou and Yohei think that Dan is getting some action with Lily every night, but he just smacks them for talking nonsense. Lily and Yohei leave for the kitchen, while Lou shows Dan the sample of the monster that was inside Keddy's stomach. She believes that the monster would continue to multiply until it destroyed the entire continent, but Dan believes that the anti-witch faction must have found a way to destroy it before releasing it. However, not even the highest-ranking officials in the church know this, and Lou realizes that the one with the knowledge of how to stop the monsters is the true mastermind. Later that evening, everyone gathers to reflect on their plans. Since they still have many weak spots, Seb approaches Zero and tells her to take all the magic she needs from him. He claims that since she holds a responsibility to bring peace between witches and commoners in the south, she must do everything it takes. Zero accepts his words and takes his hand, telling him that the amount of magic he gives is up to him. Seb pumps her with his magic, and Zero is stunned because it is much more than she expected. She lets go of his hand before he can overload her, and even after charging her fully, Seb feels his magic is only depleted by a little percentage. Zero says that she is proud of his bottomless magic power and bestows him the title of Abyss Wizard. His friends congratulate him for that, but then Zero tells them that if any one of them messes up in this war, all three of them will be expelled. Meanwhile, Lou is out to scout the enemy forces, and she finds that they are stronger than the original description. Not only are they well equipped, but they have beast folk with them, and even a demon-possessed monster. She thinks that the battle will be quite entertaining now. Soon, the army arrives in the forest near the village. Suddenly, they are attacked by huge feral rats under Lily's command, and they decide to change their route. However, the route they took was full of traps, and just as one of the traps was activated, sharp strings cut the arms and legs of all the soldiers in the area. Everyone starts screaming in pain when suddenly green rain starts falling from the sky and heals all the injured soldiers at once. They regrow their arms and legs before reading the messages on trees nearby that simply ask the soldiers if they were startled by their prank. At another location, the knight steps on traps that set them on fire, but despite the burning sensation for a few seconds, none of them is harmed. However, they lose their armor and clothes, and their commander realizes that the witches are showing them mercy by doing this. He immediately commands his men to retreat, but the Beastmen mercenaries led by the demon-possessed bull keep marching forward. Zero receives an update on the battlefield and tells the students that all the human troops have withdrawn from the battlefield after encountering the traps. The students celebrate the good news, but Zero tells them that the Beastmen and the demon-possessed mercenary are still marching ahead. Seb asks if the demons possessed are strong, and Zero explains that they are superior versions of beast folk, who can use certain types of magic infinitely without incantation. Dan and Yohei debate about who gets to finish the demon-possessed, when suddenly they receive a message that Lily is in trouble and run to save her. Lily has been captured alive by the demonic bull and his troops. He says that they will take her to the village and eat her in front of her friends to terrorize them, and as a fox laughs about it, he is suddenly sliced and diced by Dan's strings. Lily frees herself from the net and then watches all the beast folk mercenaries being sliced cleanly by the priest's strings. The demonic bull picks her up and decides to eat her right away, when Dan lunges at him with his glowing scythe and cuts his arm off. Lily hides behind him, and the demonic bull notices that his cut arm is not regenerating despite his powers. Dan tells him that he has the power of a wizard as well as a priest, so the wound will not regenerate anyhow. The demonic bull just tears off the remaining part of his arm and allows it to regenerate in an instant. Just then, Yohei comes there, cutting every Beastman mercenary in his way and spilling blood everywhere. However, the demonic bull uses his power on his dead friends and immediately patches them up and makes them rise up. They have all turned into mindless zombies, so Dan tells Lily to hide while they fight. Yohei places dibs on the demonic bull and leaves all the other enemies to Dan, and they begin their rampage. Meanwhile, the rest of the beastmen have reached the village, but many of them fall into traps and get impaled to death by hidden spikes. Tyron laughs at them for falling into such simple traps, and the mercenaries call him a traitor for abandoning the church. Suddenly, they are hit by magic arrows shot by Hort. The leader of the mercenaries commands his men to kill the 3 wizards, but Tyron jumps down to face them and starts whacking them left, right, and center. The mercenaries spread out to avoid him, but then Zero arrives at the scene to guide her students. Following her command, they rain down magic arrows on the mercenaries, who take shelter behind anything they can find to protect themselves. Hort is disappointed that they didn't hit them, but Zero tells her to improvise her strategy because she's facing experienced warriors. 3 mercenaries rush towards them, and Tyron throws a special magic potion that sprouts sturdy vines to capture them. Only 2 of them are caught, and the third once reaches next to Seb and his friends. He tries to attack them, but Seb simply holds his hand and melts it by overloading his body with magic. Hort decides it is her turn next, and she suddenly makes it rain fire from the sky and hits all the mercenaries instantly. She is proud that she has mastered the fire spell to cast it without incantation and hit many targets at once, but fears that she overdid it and killed some people. Kuga jumps to the battleground and heals the severely injured mercenaries, confusing the ones who are still on their feet. Suddenly, they hear a loud, rumbling sound and see Yohei pushing the demonic bull towards the village with his sword embedded in his body. They crash into the wooden fence, and Yohei tries to strangle the demonic bull, but he counterattacks and grabs his throat. Yohei cuts the demon's hand off and stabs his throat, but it is useless, as the demonic bull instantly regenerates from all the injuries he has faced. Yohei has no choice but to ask Zero for help, and she tells him to step outside the village border on her command. He tells her that she doesn't need to go that far as he punches the demonic bull back, but Zero has already started chanting a very powerful magic spell. Her power creates a green portal in the sky, and she tells Yohei to get back instantly. He slashes the demonic bull in half before retreating, and as the bull heals itself, zombies emerge from the ground and start clinging to him. By the time he is fully healed, he finds himself surrounded by a whole army of zombies who begin to bite chunks of his flesh as they climb on him. The demonic bull is reduced to nothing but bones in minutes, and Seb and his friends can only stare at the sight in horror. Zero cancels her spell with that and tells her students that spells like this are the reason powerful wizards who walk the path of evil can be so destructive. The war is over with that, and the Beastfolk mercenaries also retreat. Albus and her friends were watching this from a distance, and they have even called the 7 great bishops from the church to witness it. Albus tells her friend that she has figured out the identity of the mastermind among them, but she needs some concrete proof before exposing him. Suddenly, a huge swarm of Venus flytrap lizards appears in the forest, and everyone panics. Albus protects the dignitaries while all the wizards shoot a blue flame spell towards the tiny monsters. The blue flames are completely ineffective, and the monsters jump out of the fire and attack everyone in their way. The 7 bishops, along with Albus and her friend, reach the safety of a hilltop. One of them, Bishop Idemir, tells everyone to stay close to him because that way he can keep them safe from the monsters. He claims that he has protection against the monsters, but he did not release it earlier because he believed that the witches would be able to stop the monsters. He taunts Albus that she and the witch of the village have failed, so they are no longer needed. However, Albus confronts him and reveals that protection against demonic monsters can only be obtained if one knows the true name of the demon who created those monsters. She asks Idemir how he learned the name of the demon, and he fumbles, leading all the bishops to distrust him. Suddenly, the lizard monsters rush towards him, ignoring everyone else, and even when he shows the protection spell to them, they don't leave him. Idemir wonders what's happening when suddenly, the monsters melt into a black liquid that finds its way back to Lu's staff. She asked Idemir if he was scared of her little prank, and he notices that all the people who were attacked just now are completely fine because the monsters were fake. Lu tells the corrupt bishop that despite his evil deeds, she will not kill him. She then takes out an egg of the lizard monster from her staff and tells Idemir to eat it, just like he fed it to Caddy. He begs her to spare him, but the moment he opens his mouth, Lu shoves the egg inside and makes him swallow before declaring that she has forgiven him now. Soon after that, rumors about the war spread all over the south. People make fun of the anti-witch faction, which could not subdue a single village despite an army of 10,000 people. They also curse Idemir for bringing monsters to the south and endangering everyone. Albus summons her 3 students back to the academy and presents them with their diplomas for their excellent performance in the war. They are too stunned by the sudden news and think that it is another test by the headmaster, and Albus panics that her students don't trust her anymore. Hort asks her if she will help them get jobs now, and Albus says that she has perfect jobs lined up for them. Their new job involves traveling to the Forbidden Library in the north and collecting information about the demonic monster. After that, the trio returns to the village to gather their belongings, and Zero tells Seb to take the book written by 13 and wishes him the best of luck for his future. They bid the rest of their friends goodbye after that, and then ride off for their adventurous journey in a wagon carried by the White Dragon.